Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar. Today we're looking at the B1 XLSX Importer tool for SAP Business One. My name's Ian Bate. I work in the marketing team here at Milner Browne. Alongside me today I've got Dawn Parker, who is our applications director. Today Dawn will be giving us a live demo and an introduction into the application, and she'll also take some questions afterwards as well. Obviously in Milner Browne fashion, what we like to do is to keep everybody muted during the presentation, so if you do have any questions, please use the questions tab on your GoToMeeting toolbar, and what we will do is we will review these at the end of the presentation. We will be recording today's presentation. What we will do is we'll send everybody on a copy of Dawn's presentation and of the live demo as well, so you can have a look through that and pass it on to your colleagues, etc. And what we will do, if you do have any other inquiries or questions, please send those through as and when they come to mind. Okay, I'll pass over to Dawn now, and then we'll go through the questions after the presentation has ended. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So, as Ian said, today we're going to be looking at one of the tools that we've developed to make your lives easier when using Business One. So, it's around the ability to import data to SAP. So, the areas we're going to look at are what challenges you might have in terms of importing data, what the benefits are of using the XLSX Importer, a quick demonstration, and then any questions. Okay, so if you're importing data to SAP, what challenges might you face? Do you have lots of sort of basic simple data that you have to enter on a regular basis? Possibly someone who doesn't have access to SAP is preparing data, and then somebody has to then get it into the system through some kind of tool. So how might we do that? So have you ever used this? For those of you who aren't familiar with this, this is some just examples of the data transfer workbench in SAP, and some examples of the types of files that you might have to create just to import a simple journal entry. Or maybe you might have used this. Okay, so this is an SAP tool which allows you to import from Excel, but as you can see from the drop down there, it only really allows you to import a small amount of data, and it's primarily around the area of master data. Okay, so the challenges that you might face then when looking to use the data transfer workbench, for example. So at the beginning you need special templates, and they can be quite daunting to look at and work with if you're not familiar with them and using them on a regular basis, as our consultants might be. You have to make use of the special system codes, the codes that SAP uses in the background to identify things like item groups or customer groups. So again, finding that information can be tricky, and then working with it. As we saw in the example earlier, if you're trying to create a journal, you potentially have to create multiple records for the transaction. You'd have to create a header record and then individual line records. And if you're doing something complex like importing batch controlled stock transactions, you can potentially end up with 4 or 5 different records. So it can get quite complex. Then once you've got your files prepared, you then need to go through a multi-step wizard, which you need to really understand in advance what SAP is sort of expecting you to answer to the questions as you go through it. So it can take you quite a few steps to get through to the point where you're actually going to check or test the upgrade, the import, and actually then make the import final. So all in all, it does tend to require sort of specialist knowledge and also access as well to the system, possibly to get access to all the updates that you're going to do. The data import from Excel, whilst it's a very nice tool, great for importing things like master data, item master data, price list information against your items, it is really limited to just some master data only. So, you know, other things that you might want to import are not supported through that SAP tool. Okay, so moving on to our tool, the XLSX Importer. So what are the benefits of our tool? Well, firstly, there's just a simple one-off configuration for each type of import that you want to do. It just uses the basic Excel spreadsheet, so you don't have to remember to save it as a CSV file or a text file. You can just work directly from the Excel spreadsheet. It needs a single record per transaction. In certain cases, there might be several records, but it's just the same details, and we'll see that in the example coming in a moment. It pretty well works for any type of data. So, you know, all of the different types of data that people have asked us for up to now are supported. It's a very simple import process. Once you've got the data prepared, actually doing the import itself is very quick and easy, and again I'm going to be showing you an example of that in a moment. The import itself doesn't require special knowledge. There's a little bit of knowledge required in terms of the initial configuration, but that's something we can help you with, or we can show you how to find the information to do that. So that's reasonably straightforward. And then most recently, we've also been asked to not only handle imports of data, but also the ability to update existing data. Now that's only going to be applicable in certain situations, so it still has to follow the basic rules of SAP. Okay, so now we're going to switch over and see a short demonstration. So I'm just going to end the slideshow here and show you the okay, so firstly what we've got here is the simple Excel template that I've created here to import what are going to be some invoices. So some basic invoices, one for one customer with 2 lines, one for a customer with 3 lines, and 2 for customers with individual lines there. Okay, so that's all I have to do. I've put my headings here, so you can put your headings so you know what the data is, and I've said it's an invoice file here. So that is very straightforward, and you can fill in as much or as little information as you want in terms of how you've configured it. So here I'm just using the really basic information of the business partner code, the reference number, the item code, the quantity and the unit price. And everything else will be picked up according to the standard SAP rules and how you've got your system configured. So if I close that down and go into my demonstration system, okay. Okay, so my XLSX import run screen is just accessed from the data import menu in administration, so this import here. If you are only set up to run with one particular import, then as soon as you open it, you click OK and the import starts. In my case here, I actually have 3 different types of imports set up, so I have to select the one that I'm going to run today, which is the AR invoice. Okay, so I click on OK, I browse to where my Excel file is stored, I click Open, and straight away you can see those messages appearing at the bottom telling me that my import has been successful. I also get a message telling me that one of my imports failed because I didn't have correct information. So in this case, for example, one of the items I'd picked there needed to have batch or serial numbers selected, and I hadn't provided that information, so the import couldn't go ahead. Okay, so that information is stored in a file which you can access on the whatever device you're running this on, either the PC or the server, for example. So if I just click OK there, that closes down, and I also get the message appearing at the bottom there. And finally, it tells me that 3 out of 4 of my documents were imported. Okay, so I click on OK here, closes that down, and if I go down to my sales invoices here, and I just scroll backwards, I can see the different invoices I created. So there was one of them, the second one, and the third one. Okay, so as you can see, all the other information, so information in relation to VAT, dates, etc., are all picked up just using the standard routines, exactly the same as they would be if you'd sat down and typed that information into SAP. So you can see there that it is a very, very quick and simple routine. One of the areas we found this is being used probably the most up to now is in the area of journals. Sometimes people want to prepare journals externally to SAP and then have a way to quickly import them, and that might be the case. Perhaps you're getting information out of a payroll system that you want to just quickly import into SAP, or it might be you have somebody in the office who doesn't have access to SAP and you want to give them the sort of responsibility of creating the data but not actually sitting at the SAP screen and typing it in directly. So this gives you a way to allow that person to prepare the data and then for somebody who's authorised to do the actual import itself. Okay, so that's the basics of how you actually do the import. For those of you who are a little bit more minded to understand how we would set the system up, what I've done here is we have some user-defined tables in the system, which are where we define our different import types. So, for example, at the top here, you can see my invoice, the first 2 fields related to the header and the second 3 fields related to the line. So there's my columns A, B, C, D and E, my business partner code, my business partner reference, my item code, quantity and unit price, which if you remember matched back to my Excel template that I was using earlier. Okay, so now all of the information that's needed to build the templates, can be found from the system using the system information. And again, we can also obviously advise you. There is documentation which describes how to set up the different imports, etc. But as I say, it's a very powerful but simple tool to use and set up. Okay, so if we go back now to the presentation. Okay, so we've had our demonstration, and it's now the floor is now open for anybody who has any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dawn, for your presentation and your demonstration. As Dawn mentioned, if you want to send any questions through, we do have Dawn for a few more moments. We have got some questions here, Dawn. Okay, does the importer completely eliminate the need to use DTW?
I would say in certain circumstances, yes, you could. I would still say there is a need for sort of DTW probably in the initial implementation phase of a project, because it gives you the ability to simulate the file, see all the errors before you decide to go ahead and import them. And sometimes it's necessary to be able to validate the entire file before you import it. This is more designed, I think, for just the day-to-day type of imports, you know, where the data is well known and understood, and, you know, if say one record didn't get updated or created, you know, it would be easy for someone to just go in and add it afterwards. But it's, you know, it's really designed for more of that day-to-day use than your sort of industrial strength tool, which is DTW.
Sure, okay. Another question here. Do you need individual licenses to access the importer?
You just need just a license that we can provide with for you. So all of our applications have their own sort of licenses. So we will need to provide a license. So in effect, you need a SAP license first, and then you will need to get a license for our Excel importer.
Excellent. Okay. Question here from John. Can it be used for budget uploads?
Yes. I believe we've actually got somebody trialling that at the moment, and that was also where we were looking at the new functionality which allows you to update it. So I believe we've actually got that being trialled with one of our customers at the moment. So.
Okay, hope that answers your question, John. Another question here, Dawn. Is it possible to add or change different object types, or are these set up at the configuration stage?
Yeah, the object types relate to SAP's sort of code itself. So we can only import information that SAP provides us with the tools to do. So in effect, we're using exactly the same tool as the data transfer workbench does. So we have to specify whether it's an AR invoice or a sales order or a journal entry, etc. So we can't add our own objects, if you like, other than user-defined tables.
Sure, okay. One more question here. Is there any way of finding out what entries have failed to upload without cross-referencing the AR invoices and the Excel sheet?
There is a file, a log file that gets written, which will have details of it gives you, I think, the line number of what record failed from your spreadsheet. So you would need to reference back to your spreadsheet to see what's failed in conjunction with the error message.
Excellent. Okay, I hope that helps. We don't have any more questions at the moment, Dawn. So what I'll do is, unless we have any further questions come in the next minute or so, I think that we'll wrap things up for today. This webinar is the series in a number of short demonstrations that we've got over the next couple of weeks around some of the new or newly developed functions that we've got as part of the B1 apps range. So please keep an eye out for the invites that we'll send out over the next few weeks. I know that Dawn will be hosting a couple of those. So you know, please keep an eye out for those and register if you have any interest in those. One more question here, Dawn, from Ian. Can the documents be created as a draft? Sorry. My apologies, so I've read that question. Can the documents the importer creates be saved as a draft?
I will double check that. I mean, yes, because the field that indicates whether it's a draft is just a flag on the document so that the system knows what to do, but I will double check and get an answer back to you on that. Obviously, for things like journals, you can choose to create journal vouchers instead of journal entries, so that gives you an effective built-in form of draft. So I will double check on the drafts about the imports.
Sure, Ian, we'll get back to you offline with regards to that. We've got your email address, so just leave that with us, and we'll get back to you sometime this afternoon. Another question here from David. Okay, is there a limit on the number of lines that can be imported? I'm sure that this was one of the bullet points that was in one of your earlier slides, wasn't it, Dawn?
Yeah, again, I would say generally, you know, it's because while it's running, it is tying up your screen, but I mean, so I wouldn't expect you'd want to do it with thousands and thousands of records, but in theory, there's no, as long as Excel can handle it, there's no reason why the Excel importer couldn't handle it.
Sure. Okay. Dawn, what about connectivity? I mean, what would happen, for instance, if can you work offline with the tool and it syncs to SAP when you get connectivity, or if, for instance, you dropped out your Wi-Fi?
No, you need to be connected, because your SAP system needs to be connected while you're running it. So if you lost connectivity, you would lose your SAP system anyway. So.
Sure. Okay. Question here from Shahid. Can the importer be used to import incoming and outgoing payments?
Yes.
Okay. Hope that answers that question. Okay.
I don't know if we have any customers who are actually using it for that at the moment, but yes, in principle it can be so, because you can import those types of transactions through the data transfer workbench as well. So the tool in the background is the same. So.
Yeah, the fear is the same, sure. Okay. Okay then, Dawn, I don't think that we've got any more questions at the moment, so we'll wrap things up today. Obviously, if you do have any more questions that you'd like to ask us, please send us an email at info@milnerbrowne.com, or obviously get in touch with your account manager. They'll be more than happy to give you a demonstration as well, just showing you how the tool would work for your business, including your own data, that kind of thing. Okay, Dawn, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we'll obviously see you in the next few weeks.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Yep, see you soon. Thank you very much for joining us today. Goodbye.